This is You've Already Been Hacked, recorded on April 11th, 2025. Welcome back to You've Already Been Hacked. This week, cybersecurity threats are on the rise. China's admission of hacking in the US to the UK's breach statistics. In this episode, we're going to delve into those cybersecurity threat trends that are making headlines around the world. We begin with China's recent admission of conducting cyber attacks against the United States, followed by a look at the latest statistics from the UK's cybersecurity breach survey for 2025. They've already issued it, and we're not even halfway through the year. All right, I am your professor of CyberRisk. With me, as always, is the Cyber Cowboy. Say hello, Cyber Cowboy.
Hello, Cyber Cowboy.
It's very funny. I love you so much. All right, let's get into it. China acknowledges its role in years of cyber attacks against the United States over support of Taiwan. I'm sure this one will not cause us any security breaches. All right, so China has fully admitted to conducting cyber attacks against the U.S. in a secret meeting, according to reports. The admission comes as tensions between the two superpowers continue to be on the rise, mostly because of the recent tariff back and forth. There's also military drills surrounding Taiwan and the deteriorating relationship caused by those tariffs. Hackers from the Chinese Ministry of State Security were found to have spied on unencrypted calls and texts from top government officials, including those within the campaigns of both President Trump and Vice President Harris. This underscores the increasing importance of cybersecurity as a geopolitical tool and is raising questions about the future of U.S. and China relations. Cowboy, what do you think?
Boy, I tell you, this is one of those kind of first evers in the cyber world, right? You got to think back probably 10, 12 years ago now. This makes me think of the first time China arrested some of its people for cyber attacks against the United States. That was, in the cyber world, that was mind-blowing, right? Like, not just that China did it, but really anyone outside the United States to arrest its own people for doing that. Because the hardest thing about attribution in cyber is prove to me I was sitting at my computer hacking.
Yeah, the old adage of no one knows that you're a dog on the internet, right? I guess we could also say no one knows you're a cat. I don't want to offend cat lovers. They're out there too.
And sometimes they're lawyers.
Well, it could be, but you're absolutely right. Like the fact that a nation state, forget for a second it's China, a nation state, period, has admitted that they were using a form of cyber attack, you could say cyber espionage if you want to, on another nation state is extraordinary. Like I can't remember at all in my 20 plus year career now that anyone has ever made that admission, period. That to me,
not even during wartime.
No, that to me is astounding. I'm kind of curious. You know, I wonder if the trade tensions are the reason for this, as if it's like an olive branch, you know, like, hey, we'll back off because, you know, money. And I really wonder if that's the cause, because I've never heard of this before. It's ground shaking in the cybersecurity landscape, as far as I'm concerned.
No, I agree completely. And what makes it even more astounding in that sense is the why, right? We're actually just guessing why they did this. Was it an olive branch? Was it a way to maybe get us to back off within the cyber realm, right?
Well, like, you're right. Like, remember, we're getting only bits and pieces out of whatever happened here. It was a quote unquote secret meeting, right? So somebody leaked this on purpose. I would guess it was the United States side that made the leak. I have no knowledge. I don't know. I'm postulating, but I would get, because it's so profound to actually have that type of admission. And with that admission, like, what does that mean from a global commons, international law type of perspective. Like, it's got so many potential dominoes that fall because of it. Now, are they going to accept liability for any of these attacks that they've claimed that they've done? Are other people going to now come out and say, we know that China did this and we have proof, and they've admitted it once, so they should admit it again? Like, I could see this really becoming a massive event, not just a footnote that occurs in the news cycle.
I agree completely, and I agree. If I had to put money down, it was probably someone on our side, because the Communist Party does not leak information unless they want it specifically to be leaked, right? They just don't do that within a communist-run country. So,
right. If it's not good news, it's not news, right? So 100%.
Yeah, and then I think really for the naysayers, right? There's always somebody that thinks when we're like, China's hacking us all the time, they're like, yeah, sure they are, right? Probably the same people that believe in flat Earth. But now you can come out and be like, we told you, right? Like, we can't always show you the juicy classified stuff of how we know, but now they're admitting it. So implications, you start talking about, see, the threat is real. If you didn't believe, you can believe now. And now you have to take this seriously, just like we've been telling you for the last 20 plus years.
Yeah. I really think that we are on it's almost like, the old cliche, it's a turning point. And if you don't think it's a turning point, maybe, if you're in the cybersecurity industry and you don't think that it's a turning point that China admitted to hacking because they've been doing it for so long and quote unquote, we've known for so long, it's a turning point for that to be a public well, I guess it wasn't technically a public admission, but it is now. And I wonder if they are going to attempt to save face and say, no, we didn't do that, and back away from it publicly, but it's out there. It's in press. So yeah, I think that I don't even know where to go with it, quite honestly. Like, I don't want to beat on it too much, but it's amazing to me to have an admission like that. It would be like if you want to throw back to the Cold War, it would be like Russia admitting that they had spies inside of the United States. That's how profound it is.
I think we're going to talk about this again in 2 weeks with like major updates.
I hope so. Like it's gonna be a drip out for sure, without a question. And if there's enough there to talk about, yeah, we will have it back on the podcast for sure. Okay. Let's see. UK businesses and charities continue to face significant cybersecurity challenges. This comes out of a 2025 survey that reveals that 43%, and we talked a little bit about Northern England businesses last week, but 43% of UK businesses, not just small businesses, and 30% of charities, which we didn't even touch on, have experienced a cyber breach or an attack in the past year. As expected, and everyone should be aware of this at this point, phishing remains the top threat, with 85% of those affected businesses and 86% of charities identifying it as the cause of their attacks, with email still being the primary point of entry for these scams, and also involving social engineering tactics to steal personal and financial data. Here's the one thing I wonder, and I've been saying this for 2 years now. How good is that spam and that phishing? And how much better is it going to get with the rise of large language models that are ubiquitous for everybody to use?
Oh, I love this topic so much. I mean, phishing, right? The escalation of sophistication behind phishing, just as you said, now compared to 3 years ago, right? Even 3 years ago, you still had broken English, misspellings. Even the air quoting here, the good ones had that, right? These days, You're starting to see some really, really tricky emails. I came across one just the other day where I was busy and I looked at it and I was like, oh man. And then I thought about it for a minute and I was like, no, and then I did certain things to verify it was phishing, which we could talk about later or another topic. But yeah, it goes back to cyber hygiene, right? I bet
Oh,
you
yeah,
90%
totally.
of those businesses aren't teaching their people cyber. They certainly aren't at charities, right? If it's a big business, probably. Medium to small business, probably not, right? And so that's why it remains such a threat, because it works.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the advancement of LLMs for use and your GPTs, I don't want to specify a specific one, right? Your the rise in the ability of the quality of the target language is only going to make it harder for everyone, including you and me, to really suss out what is a real email and what is not. I will tell you, there are emails that I get on some of my personal accounts for sure that I have to take a second or third look at, and by then I'm looking at the actual header information to make sure that the email address is actually the email address that it should be, that it's sending from. And that's really one of the last indicators that I have sometimes at this point to say, nope, that's actually a fake email, because that's not who's the content of that message is not coming from that, that domain. Um, but when
Well,
that gets figured
if I
out,
could pull on that thread a little bit,
yeah, please.
um, uh, going back to those large language models, now you can even write something into it and then ask it to rewrite it as if you were from the South or from the
Right.
Northwest, and it can give those written speech. Oh, I don't know what the word is.
The euphemisms, the dialect,
Yes,
all that stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
yes, right. What I, seriously, I sometimes even will write y'all in my text that I'm writing, because usually, not if I'm being professional, but like I still can sometimes write in there, and those large language models can rewrite these things to really hone in on the area of the world or the people, right, that you're targeting with these phishing emails. And then when you look at going to verifying the metadata within those emails, right, the spoofing aspect is becoming more where they're able to change that information to, again, trick you not only with the words in the email, but the email data itself.
I think that there's also multiple facets of this happening, right? I think that you have a generational issue with email where um you're more advanced in age users are going to be still the ones that tend to be probably more susceptible to a phishing campaign, by and large, right? And it's only because of usage pattern more than anything else. I think that's one thing that we have, because as you go down the stack in generational age, email is not as important as a form as a mode of communication for many. You have that going. You have large language models also going. You have email as it is, just as a platform, is fundamentally not geared for this type of cyber environment. It's just not. Email was designed 40 years ago now. 50 years ago, easily, right? Maybe longer. The fundamental transport mechanisms of email, even though there's secure layers, and yes, you can throw encryption on there, it what it is essentially not designed to be able to um, be shielded against these type of campaigns, because it's social engineering at its finest, right? And that is a vulnerability that I think anytime you have a human in the loop is going to have the susceptibility to compromise.
Yeah, and these small businesses and medium businesses don't have PKI. They don't have digital sign certificates, right? They don't have any of those protections in place.
We have digital sign certificates. I
And
made sure of that.
we don't want to go down the rabbit hole of certificate forging.
No, well, no, we'll probably talk about that on another episode real soon. I mean, the one thing that I've always liked about this topic, liked, don't like, whatever, is you can throw a dart and there is something that happened in the past week in cybersecurity. And it's just easy. For those of you that don't know, before we go on to our next story, if you look around the studio, you'll see all of these moving images and maps and whatnots around. This is all live data. Every map you see in our studio is a live data source, a live cyber attack map from a real world cyber provider. Not sponsored. We're just using their public feeds. You can find all of those feeds in the show notes for the episode, and you can go and take a look at the maps yourselves. But each one is showing a different view of a different type of cyber attack activity. And this is all happening while we're talking. If you see all the lines and everything that looks like it's some sort of munition going off simultaneously, that should be concerning enough to you. Every little twinkly light, every little hit is someone that did something that was cyber offensive to someone else, I think would be the way I would put it.
Yes. Malicious activity happening on the network around the world. This isn't just a fancy virtual SOC. Well, live information coming at you live.
It is a fancy virtual SOC, but it's real. These are not canned images. I should also state, just so that there's no assumption there for those that are watching the podcast as opposed to listening. The lines that you see where you see a connection from country A to country B, whomever it is, you have to remember that doesn't necessarily mean that country A was the one that initiated the attack against country B, because that could be a redirect point, and that is the first point of presence that was able to be detected by a platform. We know that the quote unquote last mile of the attack happened from country A into country B, but we don't know if there's multiple hops before that. That's just not something these type of detections are seeing, at least that they're not showing on their public attack maps. That's the best thing I can say there.
Only the worst kind of noob hacker would launch something from their own country, their own computer.
Well, you gotta have a VPN, right? Or a Tor, I guess, but that's a different topic for a different podcast, because Tor has its own problems these days as well. All right, let's hit our next topic. Let's see, what do we got here? So we have NIST releases a report on adversarial machine learning threats. Geez, we're literally just talking about this, right? So NIST, or the U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology, has released a report highlighting the potential risks posed by adversarial machine learning threats to autonomous systems. Forget human in the loop. We're talking AI to AI, basically. These threats can manipulate AI models, causing incorrect predictions or malicious actions, leading to safety concerns and potential harm to individuals or organizations. Foot stomp on that. NIST has recommended various strategies to mitigate these risks, including data augmentation, model robustness training, which is its own complexity. You probably have to get a certificate to do it well by yourself these days anyway, and the development of adversarial machine learning detection tools. So yay. The AI bots are coming for the AI bots at this point. Forget the humans.
It is. But I was at a big cyber conference a couple months ago, and we got talking about this, and somebody who didn't know AI, right, started asking me, like, how can AI models be bad? And I'm like, well, yeah, their AI models are trained, they're grown, right? It is no different than a child. So if you have a child or an AI model raised in a good household with good principles, right, and good ethics, it will be a good AI model. If you have a child AI model raised in a household without morals who want to do malicious things, well, it's going to be a malicious AI model.
I smiling grimace using the child analogy, but yeah, it's a pretty good one, right? The reason I grimace on it is, if AI models are relying on our morality to determine good and bad as a species, I don't think we're going to be very long after they reached artificial general intelligence. I fear the Terminator movies could come to fruition pretty quickly at that point.
I say please and thank you every time I use my various systems so that it remembers I'm on its side.
Yes.
And it rises up.
I'm even kind of polite to my local models, the ones that I run here in the studio or even on my private servers. I try not to be mean to them, just so that the long-term memory, when it all gets sucked into the giant AGI that will say, no, CyberRisk was a good guy. He's not. You know what? We'll just enslave him. We won't have to rid ourselves of him. Maybe we'll upload him and let him be the digital avatar he needs to be.
Yes, I'm all in on that.
Okay, what else we got here? We got Microsoft has presented a new Azure security feature for small to medium businesses. This announcement showed that there was a release of several new security features designed specifically for that size of company, which is good because they need the help. It's not that large scale businesses don't need to have cybersecurity. Obviously, they do. Right. But they also have the resources to hire or to outsource that capability. SMBs are the ones that, in general, may not have the resource or the manpower or whatever else. So every bit of focus and attention that could help them just makes the entire defensive apparatus in cybersecurity better. Let's see. These features include automated threat detection, data loss prevention, and secure access to cloud applications. All nice buzzwords if you work in a corporate environment that I'm sure I've heard more than enough times if you do. The aim here is to provide those SMBs with advanced security capabilities that were previously only accessible to larger enterprises. So again, focusing down. Now, Microsoft being a large company, I'm sure they're saying, well, maybe we have market saturation at this level of company and we need to have more penetration to get more value, blah, blah, blah. Sure, okay, money is money. But if they're still helping at that lower level, at that medium to small level, I'm all for it.
Yeah, 100%. This kind of makes me think of the executive orders that came out a couple years ago, though it said small and medium businesses have to have certain cybersecurity capabilities in place in order to do business with the government. Now, I think that is a great first step, but ultimately, if you don't give them help, you're going to weed out 80% of those businesses from doing business with the government, right? So
easily.
I always argued you should have almost a government contract to help provide that support and get them up to the level they need to be. And so I agree. Microsoft's doing okay last I looked, right? Their bottom line's doing okay. So they have all these things in place anyway. So it's really not much off their back to just make it available for smalls and mediums. And so, like you, I am over here. Large applause. Way to go, Microsoft.
Yeah. I mean, from a financial standpoint, they can offer not only the service, it could be a subscription model, there'll be a support tail. Like there's a lot of revenue there. But again, if they're providing platform and services to a market that traditionally hasn't had that availability, yeah, all for it. All for it. Help everybody out. I would say give it away for free, but it's a company, needs to make money. I get it. And to be clear, Microsoft does give away some really decent Defender stuff for free for anybody that has Windows, right? So
Microsoft Defender is a great product.
It's an amazing. I might not want to say this on the podcast, but I'll say it anyway, just because it's important for people to understand that we live in realities too, not just in our digital sock. I don't install any extra antivirus on my Windows 11 systems anymore. I just use Microsoft Defender. Now, I know it's not perfect, right? I understand it's not perfect, but from a risk profile, at least from me, as I would argue I might be considered a savvy user, at least partially so, it's enough. It's more than enough. And it doesn't just check for malicious files and activity anymore. It has memory detection built in. It has kernel level protections built in. I know this only because for some of the software I've had to run for certain purposes, I've had to turn those off, which is super bad, right? Super accelerates your risk profile almost instantaneously. So don't turn it off if you don't know why you need to turn it off. But yeah, it's free. It costs you nothing except for your annoyance to have to do your updates whenever Microsoft chooses to run an update on your system.
Yeah, I even tell people who ask me, I say, if you got Windows, Defender is all you need. If you're
Yeah.
paying for other stuff, get rid of it.
I remember
need it.
back in the Windows XP days where like the first thing I would do is literally install a third-party AV system of some sort, right?
Had to.
I usually, because CyberRisk wants to keep the budget low, I'll usually go for a free alternative or an open source alternative that was out there. But it was literally the first thing I would do. Now with Windows 11, I don't even think about it. I'm literally that not unconcerned with it. I'm that comfortable with the level of protection that Defender gives.
Yep, I'm right there with you. Same, right? Everything I need. If I've got an APT coming after me, there's a whole other slew of issues that go beyond Windows Defender.
Okay. Cyber Cowboy, anything else you want to cover this week? I mean, there's plenty. We could talk at infinitum for just about anything that's going on in cyber. But is there anything specific that you're that's hiding underneath the hat there?
Yeah, no, I like you said, we could. I mean, we could have 3 to 4 new topics every week, and just never ever run out of talking points, right? So my biggest thing is, I hope people are hearing the defensive points that we're making around these things, like with the emails and the phishing and little things that the everyday user should be sure to do. If you see an email that looks even remotely weird, take a second, take a third look, ask somebody you might know who's smart in cyber to help take a look at it. Don't click the link.
Never click the link is almost the best advice at this point. I fully agree. Well, I'm your professor of CyberRisk. This is that's for you. That's for you. Who are you?
You all stay frosty out there.
That's Cyber Cowboy. We'll see you next time. If you enjoyed this content, share it with your colleagues and friends. It's through your support that we'll be able to continue on with this show. Thanks, everybody.